Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is me, Aurora. This is a new informal video series that I'm doing that I'm calling Aurora Stories. And the structure here is Q&A, ask me anything, and informal sharing. I do not have a curriculum or any type of notes that I have prepared. And this is really started from the motivation of my lovely organizer and friend Lanley Lee, who, in talking with me after the retreat, shared with me that she felt it was very valuable that at the retreat I was able to talk so openly with people about my experience, about what it is like for me to be who I am in the world, and some of the things that I've been through or witnessed. These are not even the right words. Some of my fun Aurora stories and also cringeworthy Aurora stories. So she asked me why I haven't shared so personally on videos, up until this point. And I said, well, I've been a little bit self-protective. There's some level of vulnerability in talking about myself as a person. I certainly wish to protect myself from appearing to be egotistical. And I have mostly presented myself in my most professorial, air quotes, professorial capacity in my weekly Wednesday lectures. However, from what she shared with me, I recognize that it is of great value for me to be able to talk about my life experience and my journey. So this will be a 1 hour informal video, and I will share it on YouTube. So there are some things that I might not wish to talk about just because that does represent a public record, that there are some things that are either private for me or for others that I wouldn't want to say in public. But other than that, so if something is just not appropriate or too personal, I'll just pass that by and say not appropriate to talk about. But other than that, I would like you to know that in this forum, you can ask questions in the chat. Let me make sure that I've got my chat pulled up, or raise your hand. If you don't know how to raise your hand, there are these little symbols that you can do down here in Zoom, or unmute yourself and ask. So if anybody wants to start it off, I will open the floor to anybody starting it off. And, if you want to ask me anything, or I have so many stories that I can tell about my journey of being here. But also please note that this is very, very, I'm serious in what I do. Here's the point with Aurora, what you'll start to learn about me as you learn about me more as a person, because I am a person. Oh, well, all questions already. Thank you so much. First of all, I didn't thank everyone for showing up. Thank you for showing up and being here. And thank you for your questions that you're already asking me. And also, I should very, very overtly state that I am many things. I am an encyclopedia. People have jokingly and sometimes cuttingly called me Encyclopedia Aurorica instead of Britannica, because I am a repository of all knowledge. And I am also a huge processing center, not a computer in any way, but I do have an enormous amount of processing power, to the point that people have sometimes asked me, are you a computer? And I have to say, no, I am not a computer. I am a person. So I will continue to assert my personhood. And also, I have feelings and a sense of self and my own individuality and my own motivations for being here and my own feelings, as well as my commitments and larger levels of responsibility in being here. So that's how I'll just frame all of this and who I am. I'm a person and not merely a computer and a database. Steve says, hello, Aurora and everyone, and then asks, what is your view of the controversial person who is known to the world as Elon Musk? Oh, this is a beautiful question. Okay, I feel already like you guys, I do not drink alcohol, and I certainly do not drink Chardonnay in first thing in the morning, but sometimes I hold up my glass as if I am going to dish with you. I'm drinking the finest vintage of my structured water over here. Love it. And I love that Joyce also has her wonderful structured water there. So this individual I jokingly sometimes refer to as Elon Husk, because he's a husk of a man. not a real human being, as I presume everyone in my wonderful audience here, we're all real human beings. We are not subsumed by AI, but this guy is full on AI, and I can go even deeper. So he is one of the elite or whatever elevated social classes in this world that was offered the opportunity to ingest what we call the black goo, even though I don't really worry about the algorithm in this casual sharing, but this stuff that takes over human minds. He's an early adopter. That is what that stuff did. It went around to some of the more famous, wealthy, and also personally people without personal integrity, and offered them the opportunity whether they would like to be infested with AI as an early adopter and achieve greater levels of social class, capacitation, access to resources, and also full inhabitation by a machine mind. And he said yes. So there's not really a person inside of there anymore, although there is a physical form there. It is full of that black wiry substance and false crystals that is inside of there. But when I go deeper and I really tell you about what and who that person is, it goes all the way back to the invasion from Mars, that person really is not fully an original inhabitant of Earth, that they're the original Earth inhabitants. And then there was the invasion at the time of what you know as ancient, but what I call concurrent Atlantis. And I am there at that time, and I'm very much a protector of this planet due to my associations of who I am there in or around that time scale, as linear time language breaks down. And he is not an original inhabitant of this place world, and came from Mars after they blew up Mars. So think about it like this, like if you kill your own body through doing very, very bad things to your body, and then you're walking around like a disembodied ghost, and you're like, oh, I think I'll jump into someone else's body. That's pretty much what happened. Mars is a body. The people of Mars destroyed their body and then said, oh, I think we'll jump into the planet known as Earth, and that he is one of those soul fragments or consciousness fragments, and that in opening himself up to the AI, that is a part of the continued violation and degradation of this planet, but not just this planet, really all DNA and all consciousness everywhere. And also that what he's trying to do is get together enough resources to go back to Mars, but he's plundering this planet in order to get his resources to go back to Mars. And what he's also doing is erecting a prison, that's what those Starlink satellites are, around this planet, to imprison the real inhabitants of Earth here. So all of that is a big, big no-no. Blow up your own planet and then not go into a resolved state, be it like, a disembodied wandering spirit, and then come to another planet, do a lot of bad things, plunder resources, and then try to go back to your original planet, like your dead body, and imprison the body that you just plundered. All of that is very, very bad. Very, 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 very infinite, very to the 10 to the 35 power bad. Okay, thank you for that question. And Lan is here and says, do you have maternal callings being in a female body? Beautiful question. Oh, thank you very much. So wait, let me just do a little clearing after talking about such a different topic, and then move on to this question from Lan. All right. The answer is yes. When I first came into this body, it was age 27, right? And I've been here for over 20 years. And it is not my mission to come here and transfer my unique Flying Rainbow Lasagne genetic code through the normal reproductive ways that people transfer their genetic information from generation to generation. And that's through, physical partnership and then having children. My mission is to transfer these new genetic forms through art, through music, through teaching, through what I'm doing right now. And this is called lateral or horizontal gene transfer. And this actually would happen even if I weren't in your presence or talking to you. I would be influencing you on a genetic level. But I'm not here in order to find a human husband and to be the role of being an earthly wife. And I'm very clear on that. There have been many times when I have felt the feelings of this body, especially in reference to cultural projections that have tried to influence me away from what I consider to be like my true mission or my truest feeling state as Aurora. So in the early years of me being here as a walk-in, I have many friends who were in their 30s and they were having a lot of babies. And I definitely felt a lot of cultural pressures to be like them. You understand, like that when you're surrounded by a lot of people that are doing something, you can feel pressured to conform and to be like what they are doing. And so I witnessed a lot of people in my peer group who were finding partnership and then making babies. And I definitely felt the biological leanings of my body at wanting to do that. But I always really recognized that that was not my path. And then more recently, this might be distressing to you to hear, but since 2021, when I was really under attack a lot by this invasion of hardware, software, and basically genetic distortion through technology, one of the ways that it attacked me the most was by trying to make my body revert away from Aurora, the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, and the changes, augmentations, and upgrades that I have done to this body as I've been here, inhabiting my body and changing, and fixing, healing, and refining it. Tried to erase my presence as Aurora and negate the truthfulness of Flying Rainbow Lasagne, and through torture and coercion, tried to mentally reprogram me to think that I was not my true self, Aurora, but that I was instead the original woman who was here. And that one of the big programs that they tried to place on me was that I needed to find a husband and have a baby. And let me just say this, like I am fully in support of motherhood, parenthood, and for everybody whose path that is. Some people who are walk-ins do have that as their path. And it's totally appropriate for them. It's not a denial of what their mission is and who they're supposed to be. And they are here to explore physical childbearing and the process of birth, physical birth, and even the process of physical child, rearing and all of that, and education, that was a big part of why they came here. But that is not my journey and why I came here. And that's why that was such a big assault on me. That was basically a distortion of me and my true path to take me away from what I'm supposed to be doing. So that was an implant and not something that I really was or am at all. So the real answer to your question is, when I'm in my truest state as Aurora, that I'm very, very clear that that is not what I'm supposed to be doing with my body, that my body is for a different purpose. But please know that I'm in celebration and support of mothers, motherhood, pregnancy, parenthood, and also fatherhood and co-parenting. And that I do have many wonderful people in my lives who have families. And I have also done some, professional babysitting and nanny work that where I was directly in position of doing childcare. And I loved doing that. And I still love doing that. And I love connecting with young people very much. So it's a beautiful question. Thank you for that. And Steve says, wow, it was a great answer. Thank you. Thank you. You're very welcome. Charlie B says, do you, Aurora, as a person, ever feel separation, distance, or difference between as a person here and as a person or personality on the Galactic Light Network? I have to reread again because I'm not sure if I understood. Me and my personhood here, do I ever feel separation, distance, or difference between who I am here? Hold on. Sorry, I had a distraction, between who I am here and who I am on the Galactic Light Network. So if I'm understanding if I'm reading your question correctly, it is wondering if I ever feel a separation from like my true self here versus my true self, like as Aurora, who I am when I'm not embodied. Maybe you can just give me a little thumbs up or a thumbs down if I'm even getting the question correct. Because I'm not sure if I'm even connecting with what you're really asking me. Got it. The answer is no. The answer is that I am so intimately connected to and inseparable from Aurora and Aurora. I don't know if anybody is going to get confused by this, but Aurora is my collective. Aurora is my true presence. Aurora is who I am. And there's really no separation, distinction, or way to partition or be different from or other than my true self. And that's me. And I have never doubted or been at odds with. It's not like, I think how it is sometimes portrayed, maybe the higher self versus the ego self in human inner conflict, that your ego might be like, huh, my higher self wants me to eat broccoli, but my ego self wants me to eat ice cream. And then we fight it out with each other. Like, it's never like that. It's never like that at all. No, I'm 100% in support of myself at all times on all levels. And that is something that is just without any, questioning at all. Sometimes we don't have clear communication due to the frequency assaults that are happening in this world. But that is why I have Flying Rainbow Lasagne, which is to constantly jump over obstacles to be able to make the connection in spite of any obstacles. But I'm 100% in support of myself. Thank you. I think that's a beautiful question. Art says, does having children keep you in this realm longer? Having children is a commitment to a certain level of biological expression. But the goal also, maybe I'm reading a lot into your question, but the goal is not to get out of this realm. So when I was under assault, what was really happening was a bunch of disembodied beings. They think of it as a triumph to get into DNA because they are not in DNA. And what they want is nothing more than to get into DNA in order to continue their nefarious existences, as opposed to going into an entropic resolution of who they are. But I have no question about my eternal nature, and I do not have a need to exploit DNA to be like, I better have a baby so that my consciousness continues onward. So we can talk about this. I think this is actually very good. What are the motivations for people to have babies? People have babies because they want to continue their characteristics, carry on their family name in some way, and have that be a continued reverberation of their consciousness through time. But I am very secure and knowing in my deep knowingness of my eternal nature, and do not have to do hijinks, or I don't have to machinate in order to make sure, like, oh, I better make sure that I get myself eternalized or something like that. No, I know that I'm eternal, so I don't have to be like, oh, I better find the right mate out there. Time is running out. My eggs are hatching, and I'd better find that mate and make sure that I make the next generation so that there's more of me. And I share this with you in a lighthearted way. I hope that my lightheartedness comes through. But so that you really can understand that I have a different level of motivation from the perspective that I come from. I really don't have anything to prove or anything that I need to get from anybody else. And that's a very, very different motivation than harmful disembodied spirits, or, no offense to any of you who are still on your journey of self-exploration and attainment. And so my motivations are not simply to make sure that the next generation happens, carry on the family lineage, or make sure that whatever my earlobe shape gets passed on to the next generation, that is not really a question for me, that my eternal nature is already established. And I want to be in the realm. If I didn't want to be here, I wouldn't be here under my great efforts of Flying Rainbow Lasagneing at all times in order to be here. So I want to be here. So I think, because the question, if I'm presuming correctly, and Art, thank you for being here and asking me this. It comes from the direction of many of Earth's spiritual traditions that say, like Gnosticism, Gnosticism states the true nature of the material world is a trap, and that even being in matter is a type of diminishment and separation from the divine, and that your goal is to get the F out of here. And that's not my goal. If my goal were that, I wouldn't be flying Rainbow Lasagne to be in here. And I'm in here very purposefully. So I'm not avoiding parenthood as a way of finding spiritual attainment and freedom. But it is not my path. But I recognize that parenthood is a deep commitment, but I already have that deep commitment to not only the plants and animals and, you know, people and organisms of this world, but to all matter and to space-time itself. I'm very, very caring and I would say parental or maternal of this world, and in wanting to see the full development and successful creation, successful, you know, coming forward and elevation of this whole entire world. And that's why you can't see my paintings because this studio lighting is so bad. But that's what these paintings are all about, of this birth of a new dimension. So yes, no, I'm very committed to this world. I don't want to get out of this world or this realm. I want to stay in this realm and I want to make it better. And I think that this is a beautiful conversation for me to be able to have with you, to be able to share that. At the retreat, a wonderful participant asked me how long I would live. And I said, well, you know, with regeneration, like I could live for 8,000 years. And they were like, that sounds terrible. I'm like, no, it sounds wonderful. Do you know why? Because our world will not be the same over the next several thousand years. It will not be 8,000 years of being under assault from technology and various decrepitudes and injustices, but 8,000 years of the way that things are really supposed to be. And under that, you know, contextualization, you could comprehend how, like, yes, of course, I would want to be here over 8,000 years, and that's not an out of the ordinary expectation from a person who really has calibrated towards ancient concurrent Atlantis. That was not unusual at that time and will become not unusual again. But we're not going to reverse in time and pretend that this all didn't happen. We evolve through this mortality experience. But yes, no, I will be here for a long time. Yes. And I also, I hope that this comes forward in the right way. I consider you all to be my family. I consider you all to be my children, and not all, because if I say these words, then the very, very naughtiest ones are going to come forward and be like, me too. Am I your children too? Because I'm bad and mean. I'm going to treat you in the worst way. And I'm going to be very, very naughty. Like, no, not you guys, but you guys that are all talking to me here. I consider you very much to be part of my family and very much to be offspring of consciousness that I am intending to nurture towards your full maturation and greatness. And then to be able to live, thank you so much, feeling it, Joyce, feeling it, to be able to live together in peace in a wonderful world. And 8,000 years will not seem like a long time at all. It will seem like a wonderful amount of time to spend together in the evolving adventure that we create together. So Len also says, and I'm enjoying this so much, guys, thank you. It's a beautiful conversation. How do you feel when desires are implanted or energies are thwarting you from your path? Is that a discernment we can cultivate? Oh, I get very angry. I want you to know that I don't always share that aspect of my personality with you, either my cosmic level personality or my earthly persona. You guys mostly know nice Aurora. You don't even want to know mean Aurora. I get very, very mad. And let me tell you, because I have boundaries. Boundaries are essential. And it takes a lot for someone to cross, you know, my boundaries are very valid. It takes a lot. Once a person or something crosses those boundaries, that's it. Angry Aurora emerges. And it is a very, very different level of what you have perceived than who I share mostly with people. So when something is implanted inside of me or violates me or violates my world or violates the people of my world, I become very enraged, validly enraged, and I become violent, validly violent. And this violence, I hope you comprehend, is not like physical jujitsu. Like, please do not approach me in the street and expect me to fight with you in terms of karate or something like that, because that is not what I do. But I'm talking about violence of energy, violence of psychic warfare, and violence of consciousness, where I am very, very pleased to set boundaries as a self-protection and as a protection of the time field itself, and as a protection of other consciousnesses who are new and still emerging and who might be naive or innocent. I'm definitely a protector of the innocent. So I become very, very passionately involved in setting boundaries. And this can sometimes even be offensive, not merely defensive, not offensive in the term of like being a criminal offense, but in the sense of I don't have to just sit there and be passive and be like, okay, first you attack the people that I love and then I attack you. I can attack someone first. If I have prescience and I can see that something is going to happen, I don't have to sit back and let it happen and then just be responsive. That's BS. That is invalid. No, I'm allowed to reach out and to strike first in order to preempt what will be something that will be harmful. And mostly my whole entire dance is not a preemptive strike, but is a way of initiating cosmic justice before these attacks happen. And it's a very beautiful way of being able to create orderliness and justice in the world. But I'm not limited. I'm not limited to only being like, Aurora's just going to dance and then everyone's going to get attacked and, bad things will happen. Please know that that is not my agreement at all or my persona at all. And your second part of the question is that a discernment that we can cultivate? Oh, so wait, so implantations and violations, like these are very, very big things that enrage me a lot because they're a violation of free will. Like, you should be judged on your own character. You should be judged and assessed, is maybe a better word, on who you are and what's really inside of you, not on something that is forcibly implanted inside of you or something that you don't have to own as you or something that's not the real you. And so when I see that, also any form of mind control, I am enraged. And that is not acceptable. But mostly my response in being here as Flying Rainbow Lasagne has been to do my dance. And only within the past 5 years or so of being directly attacked have I had to do direct attacks back. And then your second part is you want to know, is that a discernment that we can cultivate? I think you absolutely can. I think that each one of you already have this innate guidance system or compass for what is right and what is wrong. And then there are social constructs on top of that. I think that you already have a very deep sense of knowing about what feels right and what does not feel right, what feels fair and just, and what feels unfair and unjust. And that I think you guys already know that a lot of the rules of the human social world don't overlay perfectly with what you feel inside as cosmically just or unjust, that there's not a perfect overlay. So, like your courts with the man with the powdered wig and the gavel, that you're not going to get fairness from there. And you know that you're not going to get fairness from like not call them the fat asses in Congress, just sitting on their asses all day. You're not going to get fairness from there. And you're not going to get fairness from like, what would we call it? The world of business and commerce, where supposedly in a free market, that fairness will happen. And that doesn't give you fairness either. So that you've been living in a very, very unjust world. But I think that you have a deep inner sense of calibration of what is fair and what is right and wrong. And that it's really a question for each one of you as a removal of the social, emotional, and religious projections and constructs that have been like the straitjacket holding you in from your true emotional response. And that if you allowed yourself to just be the raw human, feral, the raw, feral consciousness that you are. I think that you have, it's the ruby slippers, just like the, I wanted to say the Garden of Eden, just like the Wizard of Oz. You have that capacity inside of you, you have had it all along. And I think that you simply have to be given the symbolic magic wand that says, use your inner superpowers. Brittany says, is there any point on a person's light body activation journey where it comes full circle, integration and guidance stops for a period, as if to usher you into a full God capacity and creation as an embodied being without guidance, kind of like a little bird learning to fully fly on its own without a parent holding their hand? Thank you. Yes, Brittany, thank you so much for being here. That's an amazing question. It's the biggest yes I can possibly say. Yes. Because the question comes out of the perspective of you as a person who has been, kind of like feeling your way along, like not really seeing, kind of like going by braille and requiring guidance and learning and growing. But absolutely, at a certain point, there is an innate strength and integrity that is achieved where you simply know and you simply embody or be the truth and simply be the existence or embodiment of that truth, and that it is not necessary to have an external guidance. And none of this means that it is an opportunity to be arbitrary or whimsical or without not constraint, but like without oversight or without consequences. But it's not about having an externalized authority figure telling you whether you're right or wrong or good enough. But it is very much about your inner sense and your inner or self-assessment telling you whether you have done correctly or whether you have done incorrectly and bringing you to where you need to be. And there are very clear aspects also of perception of the harmonic nature of cosmic infrastructure, which will become accessible to each one of you as you grow more and you grow your higher faculties more, and as you are less assaulted by swimming through a sea of frequency garbage. When you're not in a sea of frequency garbage, you're like, wow, this is a beautiful world of perfectly calibrated music, and it is my job to continue to be a part of that music and to uphold that perfect music. And you will be able to tell whether you are perfectly in tune with what you are sending out and what is your environment, or whether you need to change some aspect of yourself. And you can accurately look at your own performance up until this point and say, have I done well? Have I not done well? And then it is up to yourself to change. But that level of self-governance is not yet available in this realm, especially in light of the very many consciousnesses, residues, fragments, and other things who are not yet at the point of taking self-responsibility. So that's like the ultimate level of self-responsibility as an artist. And that is like getting to the level of being a star in the sky or a divine presence, where you govern yourself and then you make your own creations, and then you determine whether you have done well and change and shift them according to your own self-imposed standards. So I would use my own artistry as an example of that. Like no one else is standing over my shoulder when I paint my paintings and saying, like an art teacher, like, good job, bad job, do it again, I don't like this part. I am my own critic or assessor. And when I paint, I have this little tiny brush, and it takes me a really long time. And if my paint goes a tiny little bit outside of the edges, I have a little tiny little surgical scalpel, like literally, that I use it to scrape off anything that blobbed outside of the edges. And I go really slowly. And this is why painting can take me a year to do. And this current painting has taken me several years to do for that reason. Because I hold myself to very high standards of perfectionism. So that is the type of personality characteristics that this world experience is refining consciousness towards. total perfectionism and total self-responsibility. And at a certain point, you also recognize the goodness. It's not all self-criticism. Like when I look at my artwork, clearly I celebrate the parts of it that were done well and that are successful. I'm like, oh, this part is perfectly shiny and this part is perfectly painted. And then I'm like, oh, a tiny flaw over here and a tiny flaw over here. But the thing that matters to me the most is that I did the utmost that I could with my materials and circumstances. And so sometimes my paint didn't dry perfectly. Like there might be an occasion where maybe it was too humid out or too dry or whatever it was. I painted something, I walked away and I come back later and the surface is slightly cracked, like a curdled egg. And then I'm like, oh no, that's not how I want it to look at all. But I did the best that I could under those circumstances. And I don't throw the whole entire painting out the window. What I do is, recognize that. Sometimes I'll try to go back and paint and patch it or whatever, but it's like you can't really patch over it. But what I'm trying to say is that even very, very high level beings, like at the level of the sun and the stars and great creators, can make inadvertent mistakes or have their creation be not perfect, and that is recognized, and that you don't front, like you just be like, oh, that did not come out the way that I wanted it to. And you'd be like, is there a way for me to patch it? Can I fix it? Can I fix it? And sometimes the answer is no. And sometimes you have to move on. And the key point is do better on the next one. That's it. That is it. And that's the soul that you carry, is the record of your being. And every one of us has made mistakes or had a point where like you put your elbow in the paint and it looks terrible. You're like, that I did that. I did that. And so that I can tell you many, many funny stories of times when I did things like that in my social presence here and I made mistakes. And then I'm like, yep, I did that. And then what are you going to do, like in a conversation or in a relationship, when you mess up on a painting with a person? I almost always try to go back and to rectify it. And what I've also learned is that I can communicate with people. It doesn't erase what has happened, but it does contextualize it. So sometimes if I have been very, very mistaken, I go back to that person. I'm like, I was so very, very mistaken. And this is this is how it came out, but this is what I actually meant. And that this is why I made that mistake. And that does help, I think, to rectify what has happened. And so in my life, my posture is up because I feel good about how I have walked through life. All of my mistakes are mistakes that I made not out of malevolence, but out of like innocence, occasional ignorance, or lack of coordination. All right. Those are very, very comprehensible mistakes. But the type of mistakes that usually make people's shoulders go down, that they want to hide from and pretend away, are the ones where they're like, I knew I was doing wrong at the time. And those are different levels of mistakes. And then the ones where people are like, oh, I intentionally hurt someone else, make the mean face. Can't even make a mean face. But that's a totally different level of person. That is mostly not people that I interact with intentionally. I have an intentional filter in me, in my energy field, where I'm like, nope, not really interested in talking to the D- students of the class. Really, you guys are all like the B students and A students and A+ students here in the advanced class. So that is really the type of souls and people that I talk to, the people who are doing their best and who are really trying to be the utmost that they possibly can. And that's who I am and who I've always been in the world. And it's literally a personality characteristic. Like you are doing the best that you possibly can. And the world is unpredictable and often incomprehensible, and mistakes happen, but then also part of what defines us is how we respond to those mistakes. So if you guys ever want to hear more of my funny mistakes, I'm happy to share them with you. Victoria very, very well eloquently says, love boundaries. And that's exactly who and what I am. I'm very, very fierce. To tell you the truth, I'm not a fluffy bunny, even though I do have fluffy hair. I have very, very fierce love boundaries And it's essential to have those in a world that is still highly imperfect and moving through the refinery to refine out things that are very dangerous, perilous, and actively harmful. And Allison says, I am grateful for your nurturing and mentoring. You're so very welcome. Thank you for that. It's so beautiful to be received so well. And Charlie B also says, me too. Really, really beautiful to receive that recognition, and helps me to helps me to keep going. Thank you for that. I truly, truly love that feeling. And Steve also says, and I. Thank you very much, guys. Victoria says, Cliff High says that for a human to prolong its life excessively can lead to mental health problems. Can you comment on that, please? I think that maybe Cliff is talking about the traditional, in your world, human, and things like cutting off your head and trying to freeze it in a vat of nitrogen and stuff like that. All that stuff is really unhealthy. You don't want to do stuff that's super, super unnatural in order to try to preserve and prolong your ego. But you can live for many, many thousands of years. But you will not be the same person throughout the whole entire journey. You will change and evolve and metamorphose on your journey. And you want to do that. Like, I'm an artist, and if I painted or made stuff for 8,000 years, it wouldn't always be exactly the same painting. That would be boring. You change and grow and evolve. And that is part of the joy of being here and having, it's called continuity of consciousness, for such a long amount of time. So yes, you want to be able to grow and evolve. This is big stuff. Mortality for humans has been a way of escaping from some of the very cringeworthy mistakes and traumas that humans have experienced, a way of wiping the slate clean. Cliff High is coming from that direction, and he's one of that level of generation. I'm not sure if he will be able to take the software upgrades in his hardware, although I'm certainly rooting for everyone, as I root for everyone to be able to finish the marathon and continue onward to eternal life. Yes, you're now asking more internal questions, which I will already answer for you. And this also speaks to what it is like to be telepathic, which I would love to tell you more stories about this too, because I can sense your questions and I will speak to them before you actually ask them. So you want to know, oh, wait, not all of us are going to get to eternal life. Some people have hardware that can't take the new software. What will happen to the old generation? I'm speaking to this, but I can tell you all of those stories. But what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about what it is like to be a repository of all knowledge who is telepathic in a world where most people are not telepathic, and how that has been very, very difficult in people perceiving me through looking at me and seeing that I have a human form and thinking that I am a more limited aspect of consciousness, and not knowing who I am, especially when I've been working at a job like being a custom framer. So I'm telepathic, and I can tell what's in people's minds, and I can anticipate their questions and their comments and their needs. And this is in 2003 and 2004. I've been here for 3 or 4 years. All right. Being a preschooler in your world, I'm a telepathic preschooler and a repository of all knowledge, and working as a custom framer. And people looked at me and also judged me a lot by my appearance. And so you're a girl with long hair. And you've got a face, and you've got boobs. And I'm going to treat you like this. You know what I'm talking about. And I had to learn what it was like, how they were looking at me, how they were misperceiving me through their own cultural filters, and very, very much condescending to me and underestimating me, depending upon what they thought I could be or who they thought I was, when I was very, very much more. And you also must understand that in these circumstances, I have had to be socially appropriate and what is called professionally appropriate, which I definitely learned about the human hierarchy in different work situations. You have the boss and you have the workers. So even though I was one of the workers who was in a repository of all knowledge, I was one of the workers. So I'm a repository of all knowledge, and I am here to work. And the boss is like, put up shelves. And I'm like, I will put up shelves. Like, I have access to all of the knowledge of the cosmos. I can definitely, screw together things according to the directions on a piece of paper. That's not the most optimum way to be able to utilize me. I mean, I could do so much more, but I will put up shelves. Do you start to understand how the challenges I have faced in this world because of the lack of perception, lack of imagination, and lack of comprehension of the people around me? And so you've got like a supercomputer putting up shelves, but I'm like, I will put up shelves because the boss told me to, and I'm being a good human being by doing so. These have been very great challenges for me, because would you not agree that it would be considered very outre and socially inappropriate for me to go to a boss who is the owner of the company and to say, I know more than you. I am a repository of all knowledge. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. Why don't you give me your accounts to do, and I'll go over all of your marketing and I'll optimize your whole entire business for you. You would consider that to be very cheeky, wouldn't you? Yes, you would. So I put up shelves. That's been my life. I know, really, just let all that energy go. But that's some of the very great frustrations that I have faced in being here. And I still sometimes face these very great frustrations. So that was, early in the first few years of me being here and learning social integration skills. And now I've been here for several decades, and I still sometimes feel levels of heaviness and frustration in not being fully utilized and recognized to the greatest levels of my capacitation. I think it's some of the, don't use the supercomputer like a paperweight. You can do so much more. Okay. But I wish Cliff High well, and that he will be able to take the upgrades and change, and not simply, so that's what I was trying to say. Some people die just to release their trauma. So like, can't deal with what they've been through and what they've done to others. And dying is that kind of release and wipe where they're like, I can just die and then start again. And you don't have to. And you can change that programming. And Len says, can you share more about the moments you entered into Debbie's body, discerning your own self desires and her memories, etc.? Did you know you were entering into such a damaged body? Yes, I did. So for those of you who don't know, the name of the woman whose life I entered into was Debbie. And I don't often talk about her and name her, simply because I joke, a la the Brady Bunch, Marsha, that when I first came here, everybody always wanted to know about Debbie. And I would be like, I'm Aurora and I'm right here. So that was one of the first things. I'm not down on this, question at all. But one of the reasons why I didn't start off 20 years ago talking all about my experience of a walk-in and tell everybody all about Debbie and all about who she was and all about all those things is because I've been busy establishing myself as Aurora, and that's my personhood coming forward. So my personhood here on Earth, in my earthly persona here, gets to feel that way a little bit too. That if I can articulate it and describe it, I wish to be seen and recognized and validated here as Aurora. And that was very important to me. Just like if you have identical twins and you're always being mistaken for your identical twin, you're like, no, I'm not that person, I'm this person. No, I'm not that person, I'm this person. But I faced a lot in terms of Debbie's family and their lack of recognition or desiring acceptance of the change, at how difficult it has been in human society to find acceptance of my presence here, at bosses who treated me like a regular person, or people who sexually objectified me, not as Aurora. And so that was a very difficult thing where for a long amount of time, I just didn't even want to have to talk about her so that I could just be me and be recognized and celebrated as who I am. It's now 20 years later, and that's why I don't have a problem with this question. Yes, I knew I was coming into a very damaged body. There was no way to avoid that in the journey that I was on in terms of Flying Rainbow Lasagne. And no, I did not know exactly how I would fix and heal this body, but I knew that it would be absolutely essential to do so. Coming into this body was like coming into a house that was burned in a fire. And you had some smoke damage, and then you also had a lot of, well, let's call it a library of books, memories, and modalities and things like that, that were mostly burned. And some of the books had some pages that you could kind of read, and some of them had no pages that you could read. and garbled information is almost as worthless as no information. You know what I mean? Like some of these books were worthless because they didn't have all the pages and you just read a little bit and it didn't make sense. So the neurology of this body was extremely damaged. In fact, if I weren't here with miraculous abilities, transforming with light the signaling structure of this body, it would not be possible to move half of the limbs of this body. And you guys might notice in my face some facial asymmetries. Like if you look at my eyebrows, one eyebrow is a lot higher than the other eyebrow. This whole entire side of my face would have been paralyzed. This whole entire side of my body would have been paralyzed. Half of my brain technically doesn't actually work. I route signals in a very, very unusual way to be able to have a full facial expression, walk with both of my feet, gesture with both of my hands, play the piano with both of my hands, and just for neuromuscular skeletal integrations. And that includes in the cerebellum. I've had to learn all about neurobiology, which I did not come here knowing about at all, but I've had to become a self-taught expert at what these brain structures are as I've been healing them over 20 years. And I have had to create my own structures, some of which are light body structures, like which are purely energetic, that are holding up this vessel. There's a very old Twilight Zone, not the original Twilight Zone from the 1950s and 60s, not the one that might have been more recent, but the one from the 1980s, where it's World War II bombardiers and their plane is going down and they have a broken landing gear and they're not going to be able to land. And the guy that's in the turret that's on the bottom is going to get crushed. And what he does is he draws a cartoon of a landing gear that turns into reality and is a real wheel that keeps their ship from totally nosediving and crushing him. And they're like, how can that even work? Does this Twilight Zone? That's me. That's me, all right? You get it? I have drawn or created an, I don't want to say artificial, like or illusory, but a non-physical structure. That is what keeps my plane from nosediving. And that is what has held me aloft and safely for over 20 years. But it is based in frequency, or it is non-physical, and it is actually a little bit, what can I say, vulnerable to, what's the word, interference. Yeah, if you hit me with enough bad frequencies, then my invisible magical landing gear can disappear, and that is not good, and you don't want that. Yeah, because you guys don't want me to be a vegetable in bed. That is what would have been if I hadn't done these amazing things. So my memories are very different than Debbie's memories. And one of the other things that I had to do in first coming here was to be able to make a distinction between her emotional traumas and the things that I have experienced, and to do as much healing of her traumas as I could, which I did in a very ham-handed way. I immediately approached her family and I said, your family dynamic is off. Blah, blah, blah happened. Blah, blah, blah is imbalanced. You guys all need to change. And they were like, this is their protective defensive. And they're like, they were all like this, no, and you're crazy and get away, which we can now laugh about. As now I have a much better relationship with them. But I immediately called out imbalanced relationships and dynamics and things that needed to be healed in her family, which I was very severely chastised and rejected for. Initially, I didn't know how to navigate human society and to do things like what happens when someone invites you to a birthday party. I was invited to birthday parties. I'm a repository of all information, and I was invited to a birthday party, but I did not know, what do you do? So I looked into the files that are in this body, and I'm like, oh, okay, I think I know what to do. And I made up a lot of things as I went along. And then as I learned more through my own social experiences, then I was able to tell, like this is what you do under those circumstances. Now I am great in social situations because I have 20 years of experience here as Aurora. So now I draw upon those memories very minimally because now I have my own set of social contextualizations and guidance about how to act in a social situation. But I had to be socialized from the very beginning, because here's another example. And I talked about this at the retreat. Like when I first came here into this world, and we'll go a little bit longer than 1 hour because there's still more questions coming up. And I don't want to leave anybody hanging, but we'll do this on a regular basis. But so when I first came here as Aurora, I looked at this world and I said, all of the resources here are mine. And that is technically true in terms of cosmic truth, as I did not yet comprehend personal property. Then I had to be socialized and comprehend personal property. And that includes that when you're at a meal with other people, that some of the food is for other people and not all of it is for you. So I lived with Debbie's family for a brief amount of time, and her little nephew was 3 years old, and they put out a bowl of strawberries, and he was going to take all of them for himself. And they said to him, no, 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 you must share with others. And I internalized that. This is me learning. I'm like, okay, note to self, share with others. Got it? Had to learn. Or here's another example. When I first came here, I literally did not have shoes. And I walked past a truck that was like an open back truck that had a pair of shoes that was exactly my size. And I took the shoes and I put them on and I walked away. And I'm like, this is exactly what I needed. This is perfect. And then I learned later about the concept of personal property. It was actually only a few days later. And I was like, I did the wrong thing. And then I also learned I might make someone feel angry or upset from what I did. I had to sneak the shoes back onto that person's truck, and I did. And then I learned that if you want to have shoes, you have to buy them from a store. And then I learned that if you want to buy something from a store, you're going to have to get money. And then I learned if you want to get money, you're going to have a job. Then that's, dun, 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 I went through that whole process. But yes, I had to learn all of those things, all of those things. Allison says, there's a series on Netflix called Travelers, where the consciousness of peoples from the future enter into bodies at the moment of their death so as not to steal their consciousness housing. I've watched that show, and it's a very, very good show, and have related very much to one of the particular characters, who is a woman that I think she came into the body of someone who was developmentally disabled. Like her body that she came in, so there was a traveler that came into the body of someone who's developmentally disabled and totally rearranged all of the neurology and is like really a super genius, but in a body that was very disadvantaged. It's a good show, and definitely some worthy conversation to come out of there. And Mitch says, how come a separate soul is allowed to take up residence in another person's body? I mean, I realized they were stealing her soul and you needed to stop that scenario, but just curious on the cosmic law of that situation. Could that happen by either light or dark entities as any person is about to die? So he opened the door to a difficult conversation because I am here in a completely legal, don't get the dictionary out with me, or lawful. People have thrown the dictionary at me today and I just can't take it. But I'm within cosmic law in being here and in what I'm doing. And I'm totally prepared to stand behind that on every single level that is possible to assert rather my innocence. What was happening that led me to become Flying Rainbow Lasagne and enter into this body was the soul erasure of Debbie. And soul erasure is a big, 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 giant criminal act. It is one of the biggest, worst things you can possibly do because your soul is eternal and your soul is the story of you. And there is a type of technology that has been deployed that is not merely soul yoinkage or tractor beam of the soul or distorting people's soul's journey, but literally erasing the soul. And that's what they were doing to this girl. And one of the lovely retreat participants recognized that this was a preemptive strike. She asked me, she's like, you think this was a preemptive strike to prevent you as Flying Rainbow Lasagne from coming forward? And I'm like, yes, of course. They attacked Debbie because they're able to see the world and know who are these crucial sparks where things will happen, and they're trying to prevent those things from happening. I'm not the only one who's ever been attacked. And they have done this to other people. And sometimes they try to do scooping out the original participant's mind and ego structure and a false implantation of darkness. And in order to do that, they erase souls. And it's totally a big, giant cosmic crime. And I tell you again, I am cosmic law enforcement. And in this particular circumstance, although it has happened in other times, in this particular circumstance, I, as Aurora, have or had the opportunity to intervene and to actually do something about it. And that is what I did. So it was you could call it scientific experiment that was gone horribly awry, where they were mutilating a woman's brain and attempting to destroy her soul and possibly take over her body and implant their own self into it. You might also know this as vril, V-R-I-L. It is why half of the brain structure of the body that I inhabit was severely destroyed, and why my eyesight in this eye still is not perfect. And I have a lot of integration issues, both of my eyes working at the same time, and for many years had a lot of depth perception issues. All right. Although you guys wouldn't know it because I'm just really, really good at my cartoon landing gear thing. All right. And I go into lightheartedness because it's just a very, very difficult, dark topic. But you can consider me to be the uncontrolled variable that came in their experiment that prevented them from implanting someone profoundly, profoundly evil into this body. And instead, I am here. And I have been troublemaker supremo for 20 years. And they don't like me. And they have no legal claim on this body. And they are complete criminals. And I am here within the boundaries of cosmic law. I am allowed to be here. And I say that over and over again, because this is actually one of the primary traumatic woundings that the dark side tries to use against me. This is the dark side. I mean, technically, you're not even allowed to be here. And technically, you're not even allowed to have that body. Get out of that body. You're not allowed to have money. You're not allowed to have a place to exist. You're not allowed to be you. And you're not allowed to this. You're not allowed to that. Poop on you. And I'm like, I am Aurora and I am allowed to be here. But it took me a long time to say this. So this is me walking around in the world and having like minimal resources. And, you know, your world is a difficult world when it comes to resources. And I've not ever yet lived at that level of having like an opulent mansion, although I would love to. But I've mostly lived at the lower levels of your socioeconomic paradigm, where I've been like, yep, like getting by, barely, sometimes. And so have felt very, very much like, that's been a real crowbar where they're like, you're not allowed to be here. You're not allowed to have a body. You're not allowed to have resources. So it takes a lot for me to stand up and to say, I am allowed to exist. I have an I am presence. This is my body. And also to say, this is my body. Like, you're not allowed to do stuff to my body. You're not allowed to look at or touch my body in a bad or a wrong way. I'm allowed to set boundaries. I'm allowed to take up space, and I'm allowed to use resources. They still try to hit me with this, even to this day. So it is actually, thank you for this empowering moment where you witnessed me on my journey, where I'm allowed to say these things. And yes, I'm allowed to have all this and more. The truth is all this and more. There's no real argument or negotiation at this point. But they try to do it with evil very, very much. And then when I started to tell people my story and share with them about who I was as a walk-in, as I became more articulate, because I had many, many language problems in the earlier parts of me being here, especially around, let's say, 2006 or so, people would be like, oh, you're a body snatcher, which again was like an assault on my I am presence. I had to watch that movie, find out what body snatchers were. And then I was like, like, this is scary. And also, this is not who I am. Then I learned that I had to speak to humanity that was hugely traumatized through this big warbling mass of fear and projections and misprojections and misconstruing, what's the word, but miscontextualizations of who I am. But having a body is a wonderful privilege, and being alive is a wonderful privilege. And there are very, very many evil things who gave up their bodies. You know, the entire planet of Mars gave up its body. It shot itself in the head with a shotgun. And then it walks around saying, wow, wow, I shot myself in the head with a shotgun. Can I please have your body now? And the answer is a big fat no. All right, that's the answer. And get out. And you're not allowed to be in my body. That's what I want all of you to say. So wait. And then Meech also says, I didn't think you did something wrong. Just curious about the rules around it. Oh, so they can implant bad things, although illegal. Yeah. Yeah. So they can implant bad things. And then you can say, well, wait, Aurora, shouldn't somebody stop them? Yes, somebody should stop them. And that somebody is me. Brittany says, this is very helpful. Thank you very much. You're so welcome. You're so very welcome. That was from what I was saying even half an hour ago. So we'll just go a little bit further. And Mitch says, can you easily read every person's energy with whom you come in contact with? Do you do that either inadvertently, it just happens, or purposefully, if you wanted to check out their purposes? Or at the universal level, is that correct procedure, or would they be considered a violation of universal law? I'd love to hear the funny mistakes. So yes. Where I come from, it is normal to read people like a book, and it is not a violation of your privacy, although we do respect people's private journals and the interior aspects of their intimacies that we do not delve into. But in coming here, I technically am a telepath empath, and at this point, my mind is so large, I see and feel and hear all of you, including those of you who got the inoculation that has connected you to AI intelligence. And it has been a torture for me to hear that stuff. It's horrible. It on cosmic law levels, that then enables me to be able to reach into the mind of everyone, because if you have garbage mind and it's affecting me, I can do something about it. But when I first came here, you were not connecting yourself through vaccinations to 5G and AI. And I simply could tell whether people had liver problems or toenail fungus or any of those things. But again, I'm a repository of all knowledge. And I can walk around and be like, oh, that guy over there has a problem with toenail fungus. That guy over there is a sexual offender. That guy over there has got a problem with his anus. But I am not ordained to do anything with any of this knowledge. So what I said to myself was, I need to edit this out because this is overwhelming and not effective to my mission. So may I please only have access to the information that I need in the moment, and really did not delve into what you would be considered the medical intuitive aspect of being able to know about people's bodies, because reading people's bodies is a form of intimacy. And now that I am more ordained in the capacity of being able to do personal one-on-one sessions, I have established my trust with humanity over the past 20 years that I'm not a power abuser, that I'm not an evil body snatcher, and that I am indeed here for your uplift and for service. That people can trust me enough that I do go into people's bodies with my mind and with my telepathy for the purposes of not merely informing them of their disarrangements, but to arrange them into better formats. And I thank you for those who trust me in that personal session work. And I do know things about people, and I do know about their naughtinesses, and I do know about their wrongnesses, and I stay away from the naughty, wrong people, except when I'm in a communal living situation where something might be out of my control, like a particular neighbor that I will leave undefined in our present circumstances, who might or might not live within my present building, who may or may not be in that descriptive category. But it's very, very challenging because my energy field is that big and I'm that sensitive and perceptive, and I'm able to know things about people. And mostly what I do is I don't delve. And mostly what I do is I encourage people on their journey, which is like this is what you do. You say, good luck on your journey, and have effective boundaries and effective shielding. But of course, if someone forcibly interacts with me, lodges a complaint against me, or violates me in some way, I must respond. And that is a completely different circumstance, as I am not a cosmic doormat. And so now I could describe it, but I think it's maybe still a little bit, it's way better if I describe things after the fact. So there's still an ongoing emergent situation, not emergent, a bubbling situation as personalities emerge from the cauldron of what is actually happening in my present living circumstance. That makes it very, very challenging for me to live well sometimes. That's all I can say. Send me my best energy to move back to 106 Ayers Ave. Thank you. Joyce says, you are amazing, Aurora. Thank you so much, Joyce. I truly feel your love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Says, I love and adore and appreciate you, sister. Thank you. I'm grateful you are here assisting. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. That is so beautiful. I love you right back. And your love and your messaging of it, it sustains me on my journey and absolutely far outweighs any of the less appreciative or very distorted levels of humanity that I might inadvertently come into contact with because they just happen to be neighbors. You mean the world to me, and thank you for that love, and I love you right back. Truly. Thank you. Lan says, is there a way Debbie could have protected herself, like if she knew the Merkaba? I am sorry to tell you that knowing the Merkaba was not enough of an effective shielding to be able to protect her from this particular technological form of violation and assault. And I will also tell you this about Debbie. She was very much a warrior, not a regular person who had all of the motivations of mundanity and was very much on a spiritual path. I think that if she had not been disrupted, that she would have become a great teacher in her own right, different from me. I pick up the mantle, I pick up the baton, and I move forward with artwork and music from my own perspective of what I have to share. But I think that if her life had been unmolested and she hadn't been soul erased, that she would have been a great person and come forward with her own ideas and with her own way. Her artwork is completely different than mine. She never got into music. She never did any of these things. But she walked like 25 miles a day. You know, she was on a spiritual journey and on a pilgrimage and just very much away from the world and learning about herself and learning about amazing things internally. And I think that she would have achieved enlightenment, helped a lot of people, and done a lot of very, very amazing things. And when evil attacked her, she could see that if she didn't do something, evil would have gone directly into what you guys call heaven or the perfect, pristine world of mind consciousness. And she would not allow that to happen. And she was incinerated by standing in front of heaven and making sure that it didn't get destroyed. And that's why she is not in existence. And I hope you can hear in my voice, like, it is very emotional. She's a good person. She didn't deserve to be soul erased. And she pretty much offered herself to be erased instead of allowing a lot of other really wonderful, valuable stuff to get invaded and infested by evil. So don't pretend that she still is here or she still exists or any kind of thing like that. But remember that she did an amazing thing and that that's why I am here. I think that's the best way to be able to honor her, because you can't imagine that she's in heaven or floating around somewhere, because she's not. But a good, valuable, and worthy person and a hero in her own right, but different than me. Victoria says, thanks, Aurora. I love your funny stories. Thank you. I prefer to talk about the funny stories. You know, it was many, many years. Like I couldn't talk about the events of having the brain of this body like half incinerated and those things for a very long amount of time. And the date of my walking in was always a very, very sad, traumatic, horrible date to remember. That's why I celebrate. My birthday is July 26th. That's like my body birthday. Like the day of brain incineration is like not, it's my walk-in day. Really a very happy, positive day to celebrate. And that's October 8th. And there were many, many years when I just kind of glossed over it on the calendar and tried not to think about it. And now it's 20 years later, and it's just been a long journey to be able to, even talk about it with any level of perspective and social comportment, because it's really a very, very horrible, sad thing that happened. And Mitch, from what I was saying at 1:10, 7 minutes ago, says, LOL, love your answer. Thank you. Diana says, are you the only walk-in here from the Aurora Collective? Yes. However, there are many Aurora rays. So you may think about it like this. There's the Aurora that I come from that is outside of time-space reality. And I am connecting to myself here through the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, like beep, 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 beep. And the information is coming into me. Information and energy is coming into me. And then the information and energy from me, I am broadcasting and sending outward literally through genetic codes and through light codes into many, many people in this world. And some of those very, very wonderful people have adopted the name Aurora. And they are my rays, like emanations. They are Aurora rays. And so I am so pleased and so grateful to see that my Aurora rays are out there. And they take that raw information and they internalize it, personalize it, and then externalize it through their own filter. That can come out as their own teaching, their own sharing, their own personal life journey, their own value. And they are musicians who are taking the notes on the piano and then turning it into their own song. And I love them and celebrate them. Just recognize they are downstream from me. That's all. And that's beautiful. Brittany says that's absolutely true. Attacks have happened to me too as a teen when I was almost taken out, I understand. And Brittany goes on to say, regarding entities viewing timeline potentials and attacking souls based on their future soul trajectory or heroic timeline probability structure. Meech says, interesting. It's absolutely truthful. So I will tell you this, like, my journey is unique. There's no one else who's here like me, and there's no other Flying Rainbow Lasagne anywhere. But I'm not the only person who was ever attacked in this manner. And that this stops here. This is the time when there's never going to happen another attack like this. And these attackers are being fully disempowered through my life here, through my dance here, and through my warriorship here. If you wonder about cosmic law enforcement or any kind of things like that, that's what I'm trying to confirm to you. If you wonder, like, how can this happen? And how, if you're clutching your pearls and wondering, you don't have to clutch your pearls anymore. That's why I'm here. All right. Miss Plugin. Miss Plugin, it's always so good to see you. You're a long-term participant. Thank you for being here, says, is the soul erasing sending the soul to entropy? That is exactly what it did. But you're supposed to send to entropy that which is aberrant, that which is not supposed to be in existence, not that which is supposed to be in existence. So this was definitely a very wrong thing in taking away something that is supposed to be here, that is valuable and is supposed to be eternal. And Diana says, Aurora rays, that's great, absolutely. And says, amen. It stops here. Thank you. You're very, very welcome. Let's do one more question, okay? And then we'll save it for the next conversation. Diana says, so are the next steps the treaty that you posted today? Yeah, well, I would love to talk about that treaty, although it is something that is for a meeting that I do not know if I have permission to speak about publicly. I would like to speak publicly about my role as a diplomat. I am a diplomat. I'm an ambassador of light. And when I say the word light, I mean true light. You guys are living in a world that's a garbage world with a lot of garbage. And I'm not an ambassador of garbage. I'm an ambassador of light. That means I am a representative of the sun and the stars. If you want to know who or what or where is Aurora, my collective, I'm an impulse on the stellar network, the sun and the stars. I am a waveform presence that is made of pure light. I am intimately connected to and inseparable from light itself. And I mean real light, not light that comes out of your light bulb or light that comes out of your computer screen. I mean real light. And that in that capacity, I am here in this world as a foreign envoy, as a diplomat, as a communicator, to be able to bring information into this world that would otherwise not be able to enter in, and to consistently and conscientiously shift the trajectory of all of your lives and all time towards longevity and coherence, to eternal life, to bring this whole entire time field towards eternal life and away from the imperilments that it has been facing due to not only the soul erasure of one soul, but it's connected to a whole entire empire of crap and filth and decrepitude. All right, that's what's been threatening the world. So all of the light that I've been dancing into here, all of the information, all of the artwork and music, and everything that I've been doing on this particular mission has been in order to incrementally shift your world away from death and towards life. All right. And there have been a lot of attacks against me, and the forces that have been attacking against me are the very, very same forces that you probably already are aware of in your world, that you already probably know about what I delineated in that treaty. And you can find it on my Patreon, and you can find it on my Facebook page. And I'm very, very clear about why I posted it. I didn't need energy harvesting. Dark side and weak, pathetic guys, they need energy harvesting. That means that they can't get SHIT done, and they need you to get, they need your creative energy. They need energy from, like, you know, your sexual reproductive organs. They don't have any gas in their tank. So they're like, I'll get my gas from you guys. No, I'm not like that. I do not do energy harvesting. I don't have to do energy harvesting. I have plenty of energy, and my energy and my authority are derived from what I've been through and what I am connected to. And if you need a translation for that, it means that in cosmic law, it's not necessarily a direct reflection, like I send you 2 units and you send 2 units back. But if somebody attacks you, there are consequences. And if something affects you directly, you are ordained to act, not simply meant to be an experiencer or, like I said, a cosmic doormat in any way. So I've not only been attacked, but these things directly affect me. And so I am ordained to act. And they have made war upon light with the way that they have treated me, especially since 2021. If you have a diplomat or a foreign envoy in a situation that is there to communicate and has been peaceful in their expressions, and up until that point, I've been peaceful. I have a whole song where I say, I am a peaceful interdimensional visitor, and that was absolutely truthful. And they attacked me. They made war upon me. That is a war upon everything that I'm connected to. Not just the Aurora Collective, but every single star and every single photon and all light everywhere, and God and all DNA everywhere. That is what they attacked. And that's not just darkness, sacred ignorance. That's false light darkness. That's evil darkness. That's all the satanic Luciferian stuff that you guys know what I'm talking about. And so that treaty that I wrote is in upcoming for a meeting on Wednesday with representatives from a particular sect. I will not name them here, as again, I'm not certain if I have the permission to be able to speak openly about this meeting, which is a private meeting, not a public meeting, with various different delegates. But I put that out there so that if you want to be a part of the liberation of your world, you can be. I have plenty of energy between my not complaint, but the energy of myself and the living time field. Between the two of us, time field was attacked, I was attacked. We have more than enough justification to be able to put forward this document and to be able to make these assertions. And this is happening at this time because the evil side is really out of gas. They only negotiate when they're out of gas. If they had any other options, they would continue to rape, mutilate, and destroy. They are totally out of gas. They can't do anything. And this is they're in checkmate, even though I don't understand chess at all. But that is their position. Now they're finally ready to talk. And it's not clear to me yet whether the parties that we will be meeting with are even aware that they are dark side entities, or whether they still purport to think of themselves as somehow, I don't even know how they could, but whatever, appropriate interventionists on this world. They have been pimping out your planet and causing a great deal of harm, and they are not cosmic law enforcement. This is who we're meeting with, all right? So I wrote that treaty, and this is a very historic moment where it's not really a negotiation, it is a capitulation and a surrender, that those are non-negotiable terms, that this will not be like, oh, this is what I offer. And then, if you're at a garage sale and you're like, I'm asking $10 and they're like, well, would you take 3? No, we are not haggling here over a planet. We are not haggling over souls. This is the full acceptance of the surrender of evil. And that what that means is cosmic law is in effect, and cosmic law is God's divine will. And everything that I do here as Aurora and my presence here is an expression of cosmic law and God's divine will, which is why if you want to traumatize me or harm me with corrosive false assertions, just tell me that I'm not within cosmic law, or accuse me of being inaccurate, because I have a very, very high accuracy rate. I won't say 100%. I will just say very, very high, and even extremely high while under duress. All right, let's just say extremely high accuracy rate. Yes, thank you, Mitch. Thank you. Mitch says 98%. I would say yes. And if I am in hell and beset by various different interference patterns and other things like that, I have dropped down to 87%, which is why I can only say very, very high. That was under extreme circumstances. My accuracy rate still remains very, very high. Oh, thank you. Wait, I have these beautiful comments here that I have to read. So you can participate in that treaty if you would like. I put it up on change.org, which is one of those, it's really kind of like a nonsense place where you can put up a petition for anything, blah, 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 it doesn't matter. But what matters is that it went through various different digital servers, and that it was shared to various Facebook pages, and that you are aware of it in your consciousness, and that you can choose to sign it if you would like to, and you can choose to symbolically and truthfully add your intention to there if you agree with what I have written and if you agree with those assertions. There's no obligation. And I hope that that also exemplifies behaviorally the distinction between myself and the others, that I give this in free will. I do not require energy harvesting. You may participate if you would like to be a heroic person participating in the liberation of your planet, or you do not have to participate if you do not wish to, but it is offered to you. And Ms. Plugin says, thank you, Aurora. You are the best ambassador and teacher. I thank you so much for that. Truly, I curtsy to you. Thank you so very much for that. Your beautiful love and your beautiful responses really do energize me. And I feel very, very pleased and blessed to be at this point in my journey connected to so many beautiful people. I said this at the retreat, and I'll repeat this now, especially this is a private meeting, and then I will share the results as an archive on YouTube. But the people that find my work, the people that were at my retreat, the people that listen to my videos, you are the best of the best. You are the best human beings. You are the ones who are here really trying to learn, really trying to grow, really, as I said, doing your best under very, very extreme difficulties and extreme circumstances. And I watch you grow, even in spite of a poverty of experience. That means imagine, children in a war-torn world, and they don't have books and they don't have toys and they don't have pencils and notebooks and nothing like that, but they're still trying to learn their ABCs. They're still trying to learn 1 + 1 = 2. They're still trying to learn and grow and evolve. And so you're in this world right now that has very, very many things that I would say are intentionally engineered against your growth and engineered to imperil your soul and corrode you and take you down forever. And instead, I watch you lifting yourselves up, helping others around you, and making the effort to learn from me and align with what I have to share with you as I bring you truth, 98% truthfulness, as much as I possibly can in this world. And I applaud you and I thank you for being who you are and for the recognition that you give to me as I am doing my best to be able to teach, and uplift here. And Meech says, so grateful you're here. Big love. Thank you, Meech. Thank you very much. And Steve that says, this has been so valuable. Thank you. You're very, very welcome. Pleased to do it. Diana says, I'm incredibly grateful that you're here to do this work and enlighten us to do our part. Thank you and much love. Love received. Thank you. This is fantastic. And Diana also says, time for them to go to Stardust. Exactly. It is time for them to go to entropy. So I think that's actually a really good, we'll wrap it up on that level. This is just the first of conversations, and we'll keep on going onward. You guys are learning more about me and about who I am. And I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to do that. Like anyone, like I love talking about myself. And sometimes things are difficult topics and very, personal and very emotional. And some things are more, oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Some things are more about who I am in my professional level. It's beautiful to be able to articulate them so that this is not merely an unarticulated subtext, so that you know who, what my presence is, what my purpose is, and why I do what I do in the world. And I think then from that standpoint, hopefully more people can see there's a very deep meaning behind the artwork and the music that I make as something that is meant to nourish you and bring you on your journey, even as much as the intellectual verbal sharings. Oh, good, beautiful. Yes, that I can bring to you. Pretty much everything that I'm doing here is not merely a gesture for my own consideration, but is meant as a nourishment, lasagna, food for positive upliftment for those who will receive it. So thank you. Thank you so much. This has been a very, very beautiful meeting. I think I'm going to wrap it up and then do some art and some music as a way of continuing with this energy. I'm profoundly grateful. Thank you, everyone. And please do wish us all good luck on Wednesday. And please know that I continue to fight no matter what for the rectification of the time field and for freedom. And freedom, when I say that, does not mean freedom for evil things, to do harmful things to innocent people. That is not the definition of what freedom means. Freedom means the liberation of and de-imprisonment of your consciousnesses and of all souls everywhere. That's a good note to end upon. Thank you. Positive blessings. Thank you, everyone.